Hi, everyone. I'm Tina.
And Whitney.
And this is The Joy Within the Journey by Nurse Leadership Solutions. Welcome today. How are you today, Whitney?
I'm fantastic.
You are?
I woke up and did a workout this morning and got a hike in. I hike on my treadmill, but it was very hard. But I felt really good after I did it.
You hike on your treadmill.
Oh, yeah. That sucker
elevates
has quite the incline on it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now, is it a Peloton?
Oh, absolutely.
This goes out to Peloton.
I'm your biggest fan. Make me an instructor.
She's a Peloton freak. Anyway, so you have the treadmill too. So you got the screen and it's motivating you and showing you pretty pictures while you're hiking.
It's a class that's going on.
So you're watching. So it's not showing you pretty pictures.
No.
Because I mean, the only reason I would hike was because I wanted to see something remarkable at the inner end of it.
Yep. Once you get to the top.
Yeah. And, you know, to see just a bunch of sweaty people at the end of it on a screen, I'm not sure that would be enough motivation for me to get on the treadmill and hike.
Oh, it's really good music. But you can also turn on Netflix and just watch Netflix or put Kindle on there and try to read. Although I tried that once and almost lost my life.
Yeah.
Running and trying to read at the same time.
I don't think you're meant to run and try to read at the same time.
No. But I do listen to my audiobooks and run. That's good.
Do you?
Yeah.
Have you listened to the audiobook of, is it Let Them? Let Them, Let Me, Let Me, Let Them, Let Me, Let Them, Let Them. I think it's called Let Them. Mel Robbins.
Oh, I've been seeing her videos on like her podcast. I see different clips of them on TikTok.
Yes.
She's good.
She's good.
She's good.
You should listen to that one if you listen to audiobooks. I recommend that for anyone.
Let Them. I mean, I'm sure it'll be the first one that pops up.
Hold on 1 minute while we take this, because we do want to make sure I'm telling you the right thing, because it is such a good book. Anyone that I feel like the Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins. Amazing book. She reads it. She's a great audio person to listen to. It's not one of those voices like da da da. She is there and she's really good in the audio aspect.
Easy to listen to.
Easy to listen to.
Yeah. I just the beginning of summer, I canceled my Audible. You know, during the summer, I try not to work too much. So I can spend summer with the kids, and I had a busy summer. So I canceled little things that I didn't need, like my Kindle Unlimited, my Audible, my Spotify, like the little things that I could do without for the summer to save a little here and there. But now I keep getting the Audible free for 3 months.
Right?
Yeah. So I need to get it back.
I would recommend it. You know, it just talks about a lot of things of, you know, just letting go of things that you're worried about or worried about other people, and then also just how let me responses, you know, how you're going to respond to things that other people do. Because, you know, we live in a world right now where everybody's worried about what everybody else is doing, and maybe they should worry a little bit more about what they're doing.
Yeah.
Now, everyone's ready to throw stones, but they're not really, their stones don't look so good either.
Yeah.
So I've really enjoyed. I'm actually listening to it for a second time, which I don't know if I've ever listened to a book a second time.
Yeah, I've never. I don't think I have ever.
But, you know, a lot of times I have it playing when I'm working or doing something. So I thought, you know, this was so good. I need to go back and listen again. And, you know, there's like on a previous episode, I mentioned Bob Goff. I think he's phenomenal. The Everybody Matters, is that Chapman? My last boss, I've told him to read that book, you know, because I was just like, you really need to read this book because everyone does matter. And for the record, it's not that I think that he doesn't know that everybody matters, but it's just a reminder that everybody matters. Yeah. And, you know, we sometimes, you know, forget that other people matter in different aspects of things or what their feelings are or whatever. But we can also, the opposite side of that is the Let Them theory is not about letting other people's actions words, thoughts, beliefs change how you feel, or
Yeah.
let it, get into your bubble.
Yeah.
About how you let me is the response of what you're doing to let them.
I like that. The older I get, the more I feel like I'm becoming that. I used to be a very, sensitive person. I cared what people thought about me and how my actions or things that I said made other people feel. And not that I'm ever a harsh, mean person, but
Never.
I need to care less about what other people are doing and saying, and worry about myself and my people in my circle.
Right.
And give back to those people. The people that are giving to me, give back to those people.
Right. And I think that is a lot about it. And then, even in those people, though, sometimes it's those people, but because I've always struggled with, I've struggled two ways. I've struggled with, I don't care what everybody says about what I should be doing or how I should be doing it or how we've always done it or any of those things. I should have maybe cared a little more at times about their feelings about that. But in the same instance, you can't grow in your same bubble. Albert Einstein said, keep doing the same thing and thinking the same way, you're going to get the same results. And we have to think way outside the box. But I would limit my creativity because I would be worried about them.
Yeah.
So that it would stifle myself, and not because I might say it, but I'm not willing to just, I was looking for approval when I would say it. And if you didn't get it, then I'd let it stifle me. And, my strengths definitely can come into being strategic and creative about how we're going to get something done. And, when you're talking about caring for people, you really need to know how to get it done.
Yeah.
It's not about something we can just do. So
in our last episode, we talked about how I spent the summer training for my marathon. And that was honestly more mentally challenging than physically challenging. Running 4 times a week and mostly by yourself for all of those, it's, more of a mental game of your thoughts. It's just you and your thoughts for hours and hours and hours. And I would try to think of power words and quotes and things to keep me going. And something that I said probably every day for those 18 weeks is, if it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not from me. That's from Matt Wilpers, Peloton. Hire me, please.
She is definitely she's been to New York just to go. I'm like, hey, you spent your money. She's saving on Kindle and Audible $12 a month so she could go to New York to exercise with other people
and pay to do it.
It just blows me away.
Listen,
blows me away.
If
I don't understand, but this is a let them theory and let me think you're nuts. But I'll let you do
right
it.
now, pack your bag. We're going to New York. We're going to a live class. I'd take every penny I had and go make it happen. But it fills my cup. It makes me happy.
And, I love it that you are that focused on yourself, because you are a person that wants to help people, and please don't take that wrong when it come out that way. It kind of come out that way, but you're that person that focuses a lot of energy on other people and your kids and your husband. And when you were nursing and administrator and you're running a building and those different things, you gave all in those instances. And I'll have to say, in all our years together, which I don't know how many years it's been now, but all our years together, there were years where I'm like, where are you in there, Whitney? Where you are, there's still Whitney. Whitney, you have to still be Whitney.
Yep.
And you can grow and develop and change. And but there's people, and I've been that person at time periods where I'm like, you're so engulfed in everything around you that you don't take the time to fill your own cup.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, you're although I don't understand it, I don't understand why anyone would want to just run 26 miles or whatever it is.
To say I did it.
To say you did it.
To say I did it.
And that you didn't need anyone to help you do it. I mean, of course, encouragement helps, I know. But overall, you did it. You did it. No one, you didn't do it because someone else did it. You didn't do it because someone told you to do it. You just did it. You conquered it by yourself. You met a goal. And
I became selfish. I started focusing on me and prioritizing me first. And I truly think that made me a better person and whole. I think it did.
Absolutely. I say it to people all the time. I love when you fly, they say you got to put your own oxygen mask on first. And any mother or significant other or whatever in the world that you got with you, you're immediately going to be looking at them and like, oh my gosh, I got to help them. I got to help them. I got to help them. But if you don't put your own oxygen mask on first,
you're no help.
You're going to pass out and you're not going to be of any help to them. And then you're going to go and they're going to have to watch you go. And then they're going to, to get really ugly about it. And it's the same thing as the bucket theory. I love the bucket theory. I actually, for my 50th birthday, I got a card from my kids, and I think it was my 50th birthday. I got a card from my kids, and it said, it was to the queen bee, but it talked about bucket filling and the fact that my kids, it was Mother's Day because I showed it to everybody, because it talked about I filled their buckets and they want to fill my buckets.
Yeah.
And I just know that there are times that I've let my bucket get too empty to fill their bucket. And I'm glad that they haven't noticed those times. I'm sure they have. They just haven't remembered those times or focused on those times. But overall, it is so true. You have to you cannot pour love from an empty bucket. So you have to love yourself, and you got to accept love from other people. And if you're not getting it you shouldn't rely on it from other people. You should rely on it from yourself. But overall, you got to do whatever you got to do to have a full bucket yourself.
Yeah.
And so I am, I'm not the most emotionally like, oh, this is what she's doing. I was supposed to do a recording for her. And as I said, I've been kind of drowning in my own parent situation. And, overall, I didn't, but I'm very, very proud of you.
Thank you.
Because I feel like you needed that. I see a difference in you, that you are a little bit more not, I'm a mother that as you all know, my son's getting ready to graduate engineering school, and my daughter already graduated. And so I'll have 2 college graduates, and my job is done. That's how a mother looks at it. That's turning 50 is your job is done. And I have always looked at these younger mothers now that have little ones, and I'm like, quit letting your everything in life be about being somebody's mother. Always be a good mother. Whitney focuses on raising good humans. She does raise good humans. I feel like I raise good humans. I know other people that I'm talking about at times, like they're raising good humans, but overall, you have to still be yourself. You still have to have something in there. And as I get to my journey, I realize maybe I didn't spend enough time being Tina, or maybe I didn't spend enough time building my own hobbies. How many women get their kids are done in college and they realize, I don't have a hobby. I don't even know what I like to do. All I've been doing is working and taking care of babies.
Yeah.
So I love it.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
I do too. And I obviously still am taking care of my kids, but I have hobbies. I know what I like to do with my time and how I like to spend my time when I'm not, with my kids or with my family. Mm-hmm. So it's been good for me.
I love it.
Yeah.
So today, we are going to talk about social leadership. If you visit nurseleadershipsolutions.com, you can download the checklist that we're going to talk about today. But it talks about, these warm, feel-good things and how to inspire your teammates. And so we kind of created a checklist that goes through like a self-assessment of why we feel these things are important in order to be a good leader. Because even as a good leader, you have to make sure that you're taking care of yourself, and then you got to take care of your team. And a lot of times in senior care, or, I shared my story with my dad where my tasks took over my emotions on the previous episode. And
that's why you would be a good hospital nurse.
I know she always says that, but
you would in the ER or in the ICU, like in those heated moments, you'd be good in those moments where I'm like, want to cry. You'd be good.
No,
because you can.
In a crisis, man, I can shut it all down emotionally and tackle it.
You need to be an ER nurse,
and
you're spare time.
In my spare time. Yeah. You know, I would like it. That wouldn't, I shouldn't say I would like it, but I thrive in a challenge. I thrive in, you know, one reason I do senior care, and we're getting ready to roll out a program that's called what I call it, surviving to thriving, I think is what it's called. I should know this before I tell you all, but you know, we're still working out the fine tunes, and where it's going through 8, 12, or 16-week programs where we go in and like nursing home flip, you know, like, okay, you're struggling, you know, you can't find staff, nobody wants to work there, your turnover is high, you're using agency, your directors of nursing aren't staying. Let us go in and stabilize the core
and find the why. Why is this happening?
and
what's the root cause?
Get down to the root cause of why is this happening, rally the troops, and that's everyone, housekeeping, dietary, you know, nursing, the person that started today and the person that's been there 30 years, and say, what are we going to do? And help them, let them create a plan to improve it, and then give them all the tools that they need in order to do that, and then be there as a support person.
Yeah.
Because I thrive in that. That is my strength. As I went to the doctor last week, and I visited with a doctor that I've known for many years, and he's like, I don't know any nursing homes around here in this new area that he moved to. And I said, well, there's one not that far down the road. And the one that far down on the road happens to be the one that my grandmother was in the first time when she had to go to senior care. And it was not a good place. And I'm like, gosh, I would love to go there and see that it's a great place. But if it was not, I'd love to go there and fix it, you know, and to be like, let's do this. And, you know, so he was asking me a lot of questions about it. But, you know, that's a prime thing of where I'm just like, I have to fix these things. And luckily I went to a building that she lived in for many years. And, you know, if you reach out to me, I'll be glad to, if you need a referral, I'll be glad to tell you which one it was. But overall, that's why I built my whole career off this, making sure that they're the best that they can be, because it's hard work.
It is. It's very hard.
And it's demanding.
Mentally, physically, it's a challenging job, but very rewarding.
It really is. And so today we're going to talk about social leadership. You know, that's more about, you know, so what I was saying is we get stuck in the task. Squirrel. We get stuck in the task. And I would always tell my leaders when I was in operations that, you know, focus on the warm, fuzzy feeling stuff. Of course, if you know me, you know I want the task done too. But if you focus on the other stuff, the warm, fuzzy feeling stuff, the task will be easier because you have people to support you, and everybody will be around you. And it's not just you against them or you against them. It's the team is getting the results done.
Right.
And so that's, to me, what social leadership is about carrying your whole team together. So,
all of you being successful, not just
right. I mean, and that's my thing is I want to see, like, what do you need to be successful and what do you need? And it's different for everyone. I mean, really, to me, there's a part 2 of this, which is joyful leadership, and where it's that you are finding what is good about each one of those people and what you can do to help each one of those people and growing people.
To me, that's what sets aside or differentiates a manager from a leader. I have always felt there is a difference in those two
Very
terms.
much so.
And a manager is worried about the end result and how they're going to get to that end result, and they just want the numbers to look good, and they don't have the warm and fuzzy. And yes, everybody wants the same thing at the end of the day. We all want to see the numbers, but there's a lot of steps to get to that you can't look over. And I've had both. I've had a manager and I've had leaders. You weren't a manager, in case you were wondering.
Thank you for sharing that. I'm sure at times I was.
You were a very good leader, and mentor. No, but I did have a manager for a short time that was just, well, that manager was the reason that I was no longer at that job and didn't stay very long, because it was very obvious that that there was no leadership there. There were no leadership skills there. Right. It was, and I had been used to working for with you for a very long time, and you can't compare people, but it's when you have the same leader for so many years, it's hard not to compare the next
Right.
one.
I mean, I agree. I've had leaders that have been, great mentors to me, and then they became managers. And there's time periods that I did that, but that's one of the reasons that I kind of started my own business, and where I am right now is if I can't feel from you, not that we have to be best friends, not that we have to even like each other, but if I cannot feel that you have good perspective, and I want to know that it's good. I don't want to make it look pretty. I don't want to put, as Tim would say, put lipstick on a pig. I want to have a big, beautiful ham with,
all the fixings.
all the fixings. I want it to look like that.
That gets me excited, and I want it for Thanksgiving.
I want it to taste good and look good and smell good and all of those things. I don't want to just see lipstick on a pig.
Yeah.
And that is really important to me because, sometimes I feel like in today's society, we're trying to look really good so we can get better numbers. And, for those of you that don't get into corporate or corporate or executive roles or whatever the case may be, and you're still working your way up in your careers, it is about the numbers. And it's because if you don't have the census or you don't have the money, you can't take care of the things that you need to take care of.
Right.
So it's a mission that is unfortunately based on the number of people we care for.
Yes.
And so please don't take that as an insult if you are looking at numbers, and please don't take that as, oh my gosh, she thinks it's about the numbers. Neither one is true. The thing is have a great product, doing a great thing, and everything else will fall into play.
Yeah.
And I think that is where we get mixed up. Is sometimes we do want, like, okay, we want these, let's say financials. We want these financials to look remarkable. Well, of course. I mean, I want my bank account to look remarkable too.
Right.
But I don't want to go rob a bank in order to make it look good. I want to earn the money and do the right thing and use my purpose and kind of go from there, and then make it be a beautiful ham, not like, look, you have this money, but you're going to go to jail next week,
right.
So,
but that's what makes it, that's what sets a leader aside, is a leader can share that with their team and say, these are the numbers that we're striving for, and this is how we're going to work together to get there.
Right. And what their part is.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember, but I remember we had these huge colorful boards that says, hey, first of all, we need our residents to be satisfied. And this is what we need. This is where we're at. This is what we need. This is how you can make a difference. And then this is how it's going to reward us. And then employee satisfaction, turnover, then it got into census. With the understanding which one's more important. I don't know. Everybody says residents more important. Of course, the residents feel like they're the most important. But if you don't have the employees, then you can't take care of the residents. So does that make the employees more important or the residents more important? And then you're like, well, if the community doesn't like you, you're also not going to get anywhere.
Right.
And unfortunately, then that gets into, financials, is if you don't have census and you don't have money, then you can't take care of employees or residents, either one. So that's where it gets really sticky about which one's the most important. And of course, I just used 4 basic things, but it goes far out from there. But overall, those are the main things that senior care focuses on. Is
you can't have one of them
employees, financial,
without all of them. So
right.
They're just equally as important.
Right. But those of you at any level of your career have to understand that you're not the most important one, because there's other ones that will affect if your mission can be supported also. So let's talk about social leadership. So the number one thing I have on here is lead through empathy. I think we all understand what empathy is, but you have to feel it to know what it is.
Right.
Like, they say, don't have sympathy, have empathy. Okay, well, I get that some of the case, but I also feel like you just need to have good feelings for what you're doing.
I mean, I think empathy just comes with your character. Like you're either empathetic or you're not empathetic, and that just is part of who you are. And it's, I mean, you're not a bad person if you're not empathetic. Some people just don't have that in
But
their
if
character.
you're a leader, you really have to. You're gonna have to find it.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to grow it as if it's your weakness. So the questions that we have on here is: do I actively listen to staff concerns without judgment? Wow, that's hard. So I'm gonna just throw one of the wildest, not wildest. I'm gonna throw one of the most common ones out there. That's really hard to say it without it sounding terrible, but it's like a staff comes at you and, actively listen to staff concerns without judgment. And they're like, I need more money. Yeah.
And this is your face.
Yeah, that's my face. I don't have any more money to give you.
You're like, yeah, me
which
too. Me too, sis.
Yeah,
me too.
I mean, who doesn't need more money? But also, they're like, I need more money, but they also have money for the things that they don't necessarily need. Like, I need more money, but
going to get a new tattoo every weekend.
Every time I see them, they're getting a new tattoo. No, you need financial advice. Should we all make more money? Absolutely. I have no idea how in this world that nursing, teaching, things like that got to be on the lower pay scale, and other things that I don't even care about got on the upper pay scale. I don't know how it is, but that's the whole world, and it's not just affecting you, it's affecting it. I mean, look around. Anyone that does people caring for people typically are on the low end of the pay scale. And it makes no sense to me, just like it makes no sense to you. But overall, I do feel like if you accept a job, I'm hiring you, I'm going to pay you $20 an hour. I'm going to pay you $20 an hour when I hire you.
And so you accept that.
And you accepted that. And you started, and you let me train you and get you up. And I will give you anything you need to be successful making that $20 an hour. And I will give you raises every single year. Shouldn't be yearly. Actually, that's a whole nother conversation because people need something more than yearly these days. But overall, you can't come back to me and be like, oh, you're not treating me right because you're only paying me $20 an hour. If you agreed, we both agreed. Do I think you're worth more than $20 an hour? Yeah, I think you're worth $100 an hour. But in today's society, your particular role that you're particularly doing is at a $20 an hour mark. Right. And if I start paying you $50 an hour, how am I going to have money to take care of the residents? Or how am I going to have money to keep the lights on or whatever? You can't do that. And you can't have that everywhere. So overall, I get kind of sideways on my empathy on that because I want to support you, but we have to both be realistic in, what's happening and where the world is with that.
And that's just how you have to explain it. That goes in again to good leadership is you have to make sure they see the whole picture.
Right. Which means you have to set your judgment aside. So when they're telling you something like that, you have to be like, okay.
Well, that's a nice tattoo you got last weekend. How much did that cost you?
You cannot say that. You can't even think it. Yeah. You got to be like, okay, let me explain to this person why, where we're at and what they can do. If I was sitting there, I'd be like, okay, well, let's get you in the nursing school, or you want to be an administrator, or what do you want to do? Let's. We have a visitor coming up on us. Ruby, go lay down.
Scat. But that goes into jobs, and employers are seeing these, I think, and offer other options. Like I might not be able to offer you $10 more an hour, but I can offer you financial planning advice. Let me set you up with our financial advisor that we have through your Fidelity or whoever our 401k plan is through. Let me give you the information to see how we can make your finances work with your lifestyle.
Right. And I think that's a big thing is, and whether you use it, how many employee perks, I can't talk today, employee perks are out there that people never utilize.
Yeah.
And they're there for them to help. It's kind of like expecting to be able to read the book without learning your ABCs. Mm-hmm. Like, right now, if I'd say, hey, go back and learn your ABCs, you'd look at me like I was an idiot. Like, of course I know my ABCs, but you didn't at some point in your life. And you had to learn that in order to be able to read a book. Just like you have to learn financial security and what that looks like and how to grow yourself and decide and make plans. You can't just decide all of a sudden, hey, I would like to make twice the what everybody would make that decision. And
Right.
it just isn't realistic. So it's not that I'm passing judgment, but I have to be like, how can I grow this person? How can that person grow that person? And I can help them. How can I support them through their financial goals? That's where I think that we get into empathy about when you start talking about those particular ones. And do I acknowledge challenges and show them understanding? So let's say, sometimes I feel like people, let's use absences. People have a lot of absences. Today's world of attendance just blows me away sometimes.
Yeah.
Since COVID, it was hard to manage before, but since COVID, it was really hard because now, we've learned a little bit more work-life balance or work-life success. We've learned priorities and different things. But as a leader, do you acknowledge their challenge and do you show understanding? How many times I get on the phone with a manager, I would have to say manager, and they're like, well, I can't have anyone on a special schedule. I can't have anyone that can't be here. If they can't be here at this exact time every single day, they can't be an employee here.
If they can't work 12 hours, I don't
If they
want
can't
them.
work 12 hours, I don't want them. If they can't work every other weekend, I don't want them. Like it isn't that way anymore. We have to be compassionate about people have challenges. Today's world is more challenging than it's been. I mean, I read things, where people talk about what the other generations lived through, and yeah, it's there. No doubt they've had stronger challenges than we do, but overall we haven't lived through that, so we can't understand that. So we have to go in and understand what challenges do they have now. And it might be childcare challenges, or it might be timing challenges, school challenges, different things. Anytime my granddaughter is sick, I'm usually the one that watches her because she can't go to daycare.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, that could just be she has a snotty nose and she can't go to daycare. Well, how is my daughter supposed to maintain a job? And she has great attendance at work, but how is she supposed to maintain a job if every time your kid who's in daycare that's exposed to everybody else gets sick? How is she supposed to quit a job like that? And it used to be where there was all these generations in the household to where like, oh, well, grandma's there, so she can do it, or siblings there or whatever. But, most people only have one or two kids these days, and they don't live intergenerational in the household. So that person's on their own. They have to call into work. So you have to figure out, how can you help that person? How can you be a backup plan and figure out what it is to go from there? So
as a leader, it's hard to, now I haven't been in a leadership position in a while, but you have to step back to, like if somebody has a call in because their kid is sick. Well, if your kid was sick, you wouldn't be at work either.
Right.
Like,
but we
I'm
might have brought our
sorry.
kids. In the old days, I would have brought my kid with a fever, put him under my desk. Please don't judge me for this. He's graduating as an engineer this month.
It was a big desk. He was fine.
It was a big desk. But I would bring him. He would get under my desk and he'd sleep in my office under my desk if he was sick. He happened to be sick a lot. So, but I brought a sick kid to the nursing home. I mean, that is nuts. We wouldn't do that these days. That was stupid. But the reality of it is, we wouldn't do that these days. That means that someone's got to stay home with that kid. And I would absolutely choose to stay home with him if I couldn't be with him.
And that's how I am now. As a leader, when somebody called in because their kid was sick, well, I would always say, you're supposed to have plan A, plan B, plan C. And now if my kid is sick, my priority is my family, not work.
Right.
And I want it to be okay that I can stay home with my kid.
Right. And figuring out how to do that in senior care or healthcare anywhere is a challenge. And so, that's something that, we have to be creative. We have to be really creative.
Yeah.
And I don't think a lot of our managers are ready to be that creative. And I think that there's lots of things, but overall, supporting someone, leading with empathy is supporting someone through that challenge and that stressor and that, burnout or whatever that they're going through. And, I look at times that I've been burnt out which has happened. I mean, it happens to every single person, and much less nursing or
sure.
senior care. And I think, and I hate to say this because I don't have any ill feelings, but I think, did anyone, um, say, hey, why don't you take the next month off? You've been here for how many years? You have so much, how much PTO did you probably lose in those many years because you never took off? Why don't you just take the next month off and gather yourself? And, I might have done that.
Yeah.
I might have done that. And, I've told in the previous episode, I said, well, when I had COVID, you called my boss and he made me be off work, but it was only for like a few days. And, and it wasn't, I didn't take off work and I had COVID. So I don't know if that really means, the first COVID, not like the COVID now, but the first COVID. So I was truly sick, but overall, I'm stressed. I'm burned out. I mentioned, everybody knew my dad was having challenges, and I had a significant other that, I told that story earlier, that I didn't think he was I didn't think he was going to make it at the exact moment. And, yeah, I was stressed and burned out. And how are we handling that with people? How are we going to them and being empathetic and saying, what can I do? What can I do?
How can I fill your bucket?
How can I fill your bucket as a leader and make you feel like you're worth something to us? Because, at the end, my bucket was empty, and it's okay. It's my job. The reality of it is my job to fill my bucket. I do know that. But if you're a leader, it's also your job to notice when my bucket's empty. And you either need to help me fill it or you need to go tell me to fill it.
That takes me back to my administrator days. I had a phenomenal dietary manager that I worked with, and I could see it. So, her attitude was changing, her everything about her was changing. She was irritable. She was burnt out, and I was terrified to lose her. And I said, it's time. You need to take some time, take the next week. Please, just get out of here. Get out of this building for the next week. And she did, and she came back refreshed and back to who she was.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I probably worked all the hours in the kitchen for that week, but it was worth it to me for her to have that time off and to come back being refreshed and recharged and back to who she was.
And I think what you just said is so important, because there's so many times where I hear managers say, I can't afford to be without them. I'll have to work all those hours. Okay, well, if they quit, guess who's going to be working the hours then?
Yeah.
It's going to be you too. And except it won't be for a week. It'll be for weeks while you try to find a replacement. And then what you'll do is
train.
Hire and train, and then probably hire and train someone else again. Because if you lose a really great employee, you don't just find one that's ready to go right behind them.
Right.
My significant other, he is, he has a business, and he's like, it's a year-long process, Tina, to replace someone. It's a year-long process. So now I'm like, okay, well, that seems insane, because I don't understand what he does enough to understand that. But in the same instance, I'm like, okay, then what do you do not to have to replace that person? That's the reality of it is, how are you going to take that person? That doesn't mean you have to go out there and, kiss everyone's rear end. It just means you have to be a good person and go do the soft stuff, which might lead you into having to do some hard stuff, like work a week. But overall, those are examples where stress and burnout, if you help the person, you might maintain them.
Right.
And then they'll respect you more. And then when you need someone to fill your bucket, or when you need a week off, guess who's going to be standing there ready to help?
Yeah.
It's going to be that person. You won't be standing there by yourself. You won't be trying to figure out how you're going to fill the kitchen and take a week off yourself, because you won't have anybody around you because you didn't do it in the first place.
Right.
So, number 1, lead through empathy. Number 2, wow, funny, we've been telling lots of stories. So use storytelling to inspire. Do I share real stories that connect staff to our mission? When I talked about this, when I presented this checklist to a team, I talked about my grandmother. we all know she's my why. I talk about her all the time. I apologize. You guys sometimes are probably like, okay, we know you have a special grandmother. I do have a special grandmother, but it's not immediately that I say it was about her in the mission. It was just as important about taking care of the caregivers that took care of her.
Right.
And my mission has not become about taking care of the residents themselves, because I'm more of the leader of the people that take care of them. I'm a great nurse and great caregiver at the bedside, for the record, but overall, I love to lead a team of people to do excellent care. I will get my hands dirty. I will put my gloves on. I will take them to the bathroom. I have no problem doing any of those things. I love having those moments, but on every given day, I want to take care of the caregiver. So the caregiver is the strongest that they can be in order to take care of the loved one. So the families can go home and sleep at night.
Right.
This is what I always said, is if the family can go home and sleep at night, because we didn't sleep when my grandmother was in the first place. We didn't sleep at night. It was terrifying. We just didn't know what was happening, what was doing. When she was with us, we couldn't sleep because she was running around the house in the middle of the night and getting out of the windows and all kinds of things. And then from there, we took her a place that we weren't real happy a bit with. And then we took her to a place that we could finally go home and sleep at night. And that is what sold me on that exact location.
Yeah. Is that peace of mind.
Is the peace of mind. And I don't think that we inspire people enough by sharing their stories. How did we help people? We get so busy doing the task and what has to be done and what isn't going right that we forget to say, hey, remember that person that didn't die alone? Remember that person that the family was able to come in and have great visits instead of having to worry about changing their pants or getting after them? Because I mean, even when I'm helping my dad, I know like his nurse comes in and she's like all so warm and fuzzy and laughing and cuddling. And then I'm coming in and I'm just like, why didn't you get up and walk today? It's different when you're the caregiver of the family member. So to have that ability to use storytelling is a lot, and highlighting a resident or staff success. I love to talk about your successes. You came right out of high school and became a nurse and a leader, and you are a leader still. I know you said, well, I'm not in a leadership role, but you are definitely a leader. We talked on a previous episode about you winning the Daisy Award, and that's an example to be setting for other nurses, is being the leader. So you don't have to have a title to be a leader. And I never felt like I waited for permission to be a leader, which maybe I'm sorry to those people that were supposed to be leading me that I didn't wait for permission, but it never held me back by my title of how I felt like I needed to make a difference.
Yeah.
Yep. So number 3 is build communities of practice. So this is about encouraging teamwork, peer mentorship, and collaboration, and creating opportunities for staff to learn from each other. And this is an area I think we struggle with a lot. I think of in-services. A lot of in-services I see, we walk in and we tell them, this is what you need to know. We might even do a hands-on demonstration if we're doing patient care or something. Why don't we have our best leaders up there giving the demonstration? Why don't we have them showing how to do the best pericare and how to work with this particular person? Why aren't we having them lead more committees that says, hey, we're having too many falls. I need you as a leader. That's really great. There's the least number of falls on your shift, Whitney. So can you go and train everybody else on this thing and use them? And everybody thinks, oh, well, I have to give them more money or I have to give them a title. No, you don't. No, you don't. You just say, this is a strength that you have. And I can't make everyone have the same strength, nor would you want everyone on the team to have the same strength. So take the strengths that you have and build those people up, which will also fill their bucket and everything else. And it takes a lot off yourself as a leader to not have to be the one doing it all the time. And I'm hard at that because I'm right now I'm the pot calling the kettle black. But overall, why don't we mentor more people in that particular way? One thing that was brought up to me recently is when I was in operations, I always had a spreadsheet with all 16 of my buildings on it. It said, this is what they got, how many deficiencies they had. This is what their satisfaction scores were. This is what, turnover is. And some people didn't really like that because they didn't like their dirty one. If you're at the bottom of the list, you didn't really like your dirty underwear out there. But it immediately going back to take the first thing we talked about is taking care of yourself. It immediately told you if you're having a problem with turnover, you're the lowest on the list. Who do you go to for the tips? You go to the top one.
Right.
You don't have to come to me. I mean, I'm not producing this turnover. That building is producing that great turnover results, not me. I mean, I'm telling them that they need to. I'm giving them some tools, but no one told me as an administrator or director of nursing that I had to be better than anybody else. I wanted to be better than everybody else. Not everybody. Not that I had to be better than everyone else, but I wanted good results for my building.
Right.
So
what comes to mind when I think of this is like going back to administrator days and even in my job now. We would always ask new employees coming in, tell me something about your previous job that you really liked, and how do you think we could incorporate that here?
Mm-hmm. I love that.
I think that's huge.
I still ask that question when I'm in buildings. I still ask it. At my last assignment, I just said, tell me what we need to do different.
Yeah.
And tell me how was your orientation, and then what orientation look like at the other place. One thing I've said this already, but senior care keeps trying to reinvent the wheel, and really the wheel's already developed. We just have to do what we say is in the wheel. We have to take care of the people and do those things. So there's a lot to be learned, but sometimes people get so sidetracked into I'm stuck in my building that I want to learn from other ones. So how are you creating that? I share the story all the time. When I become a new director of nursing, I went to a DON that had success in her building, and I said, tell me, how do you get your showers done? Like, I feel like every single week we get to the end of the week and we don't have our showers done. And it was just, I can't say in my 30 years of senior care that I consistently have met a building that gets their showers done at the end. First of all, we think of it as this exact thing. So this exact thing of taking someone to a shower room, showering them and taking them out isn't what we should be thinking about. Were they washed is what we should be thinking about, because if I'm 90 years old and I'm used to a once a week wash down, I hate to say it that way, but I'm going to go head to toe. That is my bath. That is what I should be, keep going with that, but if it's going to be hard for me because I have a shower every morning, and I'm going to probably be cranky every day if I don't get a shower. But I asked this DON, how do you get them all done? Like, how do you have them on this exact schedule and get them exact done? And she's like, we just do it. And that's all she would share with me. And she's just like, you must not be doing good if you're not doing that. And I was just like, ah. And so really she was a horrible mentor to go to, even though she'd been with us a long time. I thought that was a good person to go to. And I realized later, maybe not so much. But as a new DON, that really beat me up. It really bothered me. Like, okay, she can do it, then I can do it. Years later, I went to her building and ended up being an inspector in a building, and I did not ever bring it up to her, but I was like, guess what? You don't get your showers done every single week. You were lying to me. But the reality of it is, helping each other succeed in this business is crucial.
It is.
And utilizing your whole team in order to do that becomes, and we used to talk about employee council meetings. I can't say that I know a single building that has an employee council. And I'm sure that there's buildings that do, but why not? Why not do we not have an employee group? I don't care if you want to call it a learning circle, employee council, a mentorship program. I don't care what you want to call it, but I give presentations often to different leagues and associations, and some virtual, some in person. And I ask the question, and I bet you one out of everyone in the class, maybe a couple out of everyone in the class, does not have some kind of employee-based group that helps lead success. And maybe that's because they get into, that gets into the pay and the, it becomes a them against us situation, but that's only because the leader's letting it get that way.
Yeah.
And I think that that's something that we have to really be mindful on.
We have a monthly, where I work now, we have a monthly employee meeting, and like that's our time to do you have any questions? Do you have any concerns? And it's usually crickets chirping. And as a leader, that is so frustrating because you hear, little things going out on the floor and this person complaining of this and this person complaining of that. And you're given this time to share those concerns. And then it's just crickets.
Right. Why aren't you guys sharing those concerns? Or if you're working for someone you don't feel comfortable, well, then that's a whole nother topic to have, because we shouldn't have people that we don't. I was talking to someone this morning, as a matter of fact, that said, I don't feel comfortable telling them this. Some days I can tell them and it's okay. And sometimes I can tell them and they're looking at me like I've got 4 eyeballs. And, that's a failure as that leader. You should feel comfortable as an employee talking about whatever it is, because if you're thinking it, chances are someone else is thinking it.
Yeah.
And many people. In my last assignment, I did a SWOT analysis. If you don't know what that is, that's just a very basic what's happening in this building, where, it's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, or barriers or threats, whichever SWOT, SWAB, whatever, you want to do. And it kind of helps give me a baseline of what's going on with that building. And, I have them write down all their challenges and help create goals in order to, everything that was on the list of challenges that they had was things that team had total control over. Hey, sometimes we're not consistent in care. Okay. Well, who's that on? That's on you. Hey, sometimes we don't pass on information to each other. Okay, that's on you guys. So how are you going to fix those things? Every single thing, the morale, not the morale is all on them, but in the same, everything that they listed for me, I can immediately revert back to them and go, but that's you. That's you, that's you, that's you, that's you and your team. So how are you and your team going to fix these things? And that was really their biggest hang up in this whole entire building, is that team needed to support each other and learn from each other, but they had fallen apart from that. And they weren't doing that. They were in battle, and we all know, days and evenings and nights and weekends and weekdays and nurses and CNAs and CMTs. I mean, those are age-old wars, and I still can't figure out why we want to fight with each other. But overall, we still want to fight with each other about who's doing what. And, the simple question is, okay, if you didn't have those people doing their thing, how would your job be going? And the answer is 100% all the time, well, not very good, because days can't do nights job. Nights can't do days job. CNAs can't do CMT's job. So, well, guess what? You have to have those people. So why are you sitting there in your judgment chair trying to decide what they should do differently instead of working together trying to figure it out? And I run across that in a lot of buildings that I've done this example in, where it's the same thing. It's like the things that they're most upset about, they have 100% control over. They're just waiting for someone to fix it. Well, no one can fix it but them. So, but they won't fix it unless we as leaders put them in a situation to actually fix it, by putting them in a group and supporting them and encouraging positive communication back and forth, and how it affects them and how it could help them and how it could take away from them. So collaboration is definitely improved care and morale. Did you want to add anything to that particular one?
Nope.
All right. Recognize and celebrate contributions. This seems like an old thing that we always talk about. How do you recognize staff achievements publicly? Or do you celebrate both big and small wins regularly? So this is a hard one for me, because I'm always looking for the big win. I'm always looking for, hey, we got this big goal. Let's meet this big goal. I know we can meet this big goal, but I forget about the little wins along the way.
Yeah.
And I focus on the big one, and I have to, it has to be written down in front of me on a plan to say, when you get 1% better turnover, we're going to celebrate it. When you get 2%, even though I want to get 10%, I forget to celebrate the 1s, the 2s, the 3s, the 4s, the 5s. And I have to constantly remind myself of that. And I see that that is a common, we're always like, oh, okay, we didn't get there. I think I shared this on a previous episode where some people that worked at, I think you were there when we happened. I took them to the park. I took everybody to the park, and and they were upset because we had 4 deficiencies. they said I was upset, but it wasn't I was upset about 4 deficiencies. There was a lot of things I was upset about. Probably many I shouldn't have been upset about. But regardless, it was 4, not 0. So, or 1 or 2. And they were stupid ones. And so I'm like, well, why did we get stupid ones? But the reality is I probably should have celebrated 4 because national or Missouri average at that time was 7. And 4 would be great. And they were stupid ones. What do I want? 4 big ones? I mean, like it was simple. So you have to make sure, how are you celebrating even the small wins and not just looking for that big win. I think that is really important.
And even not building oriented, like still celebrate your staff for their achievements. For example, my coworkers now surprised me with a card and an adult depend before my race, my last shift before my
Somehow I ended up with that. Your husband brought me that adult depend, and I'm not sure that was an insult.
I think I left it in his car.
You left it in his car, like, and so he brought me an adult depends, and I did turn 50. I told you guys that on the last episode, but I don't need it yet.
Yeah,
and it was too big.
It was like extra large. I should have been offended by that, but I wasn't. But just celebrating things. Me running that marathon, they all probably thought I was absolutely insane and why would anybody want to do that? But they didn't say that to me. They celebrated me. They wanted to make sure that I had their encouraging words before I went off on my marathon, and that I know, no surprise to you, but I literally cried when I opened it and I was reading it.
No.
But it, like, celebrate their wins,
they graduated,
and their achievements.
They graduated nursing school. They started nursing school. They got their administrator's license. It don't even matter what it is.
They had a baby, they bought a new house. That's, they got married. Celebrate things that are important to them, not just you're important.
Right. And again, everybody's like, well, when am I going to have time to do that? But if you do that, that person's going to be there to support you when you need support.
Yes.
And I think that we forget that. Do the soft things first. The hard things will roll in behind it, and you will have a stronger team to help you get through it.
Yeah. They'll have your back when you need it.
Do the soft things first. We are actually getting ready to start a program, and I'm putting Whitney in charge of this program. She might not know it yet, but I developed a 501c for nurse education and some skilled nursing things. And we're working on a couple grants that we're going to do. And aside from that, in this 501c to raise money for nurse education and stuff like that, we are in community, intergenerational community, seniors and kids. I'm working on a couple of different things. But in that, we want to start getting celebratory things from you guys, to where you send us something that says, hey, would you please recognize Nurse Jan at this building for this accomplishment? And we're going to try to put some things together to where we can do that. And it should be through you directly, obviously. But if it is something that that it's an easy push of a button, and it is also like, you shouldn't not do what you're going to do. This would be an above and beyond that, to say, right, hey, you're important to this mission. You're important to your purpose to help people through your nursing, and it's even recognized. And so I would love to get some recognitions sent to me, and then Whitney is going to help me build some beautiful little gifts to send them out, and we will.
Let us spoil your nurses and your caregivers.
Yes.
They need it.
They need it. They need their buckets filled, and we want to be a part of filling that bucket. So that is about recognizing and celebrating contributions. So how recently has it been since you recognized them? Don't wait for in-service. Don't do it. Don't do 20 people at in-service. That's not nearly as special. It's Whitney's birthday today. Do it today. It's, this person got married last week. Don't wait 6 weeks to recognize them. It needs to be immediate. Just like the first 10 minutes of your day, just think, is there anyone I need to recognize?
Yeah.
Do that first. Put it on your calendar. Have it done. It will make the biggest impact over everything else you do the rest of the day if you just take the time to recognize your staff first. Modeling desired behavior. I find this one interesting. Do I consistently show respect, accountability, and positivity? Do I demonstrate the behaviors I expect from staff? So those are really important to me because I think that we're struggling a little bit more with this in the world today. You know, we have a lot of cultural diversity, a lot of different things that happen, and a lot of things that are accepted that were never accepted before. You know, one thing I look at is what comes to my mind is uniforms. I'm a little bit of old school when it comes to uniforms. Not that it has to be. So, for the record, my first job as an LPN, I had to wear white dress, slacks, hat, all of it. I had to be in the white, full white.
Not a chance. Today. Not a
It was
chance.
crazy. But that is what the expectation was. It was a bunch of nuns. And yeah, I know they hired me to be their nurse. It's the craziest thing I ever heard. But anyway, but I had to wear all white for this job, including the white hat. And so I'm a little old school, you know, that ages me a little bit. It's not that long. I mean, it was 1996, 96, I think. 95, 96, I don't know. It was that long ago, but not so long ago that you'd think, oh, she's wearing all white. You know, I mean, that goes way back when you start talking about that. And so where was I going with this? So
uniforms.
So I go in these buildings and the uniforms are just crazy. They're all over the place. People wearing ratty t-shirts and
jeans, giant hoodies
and everything else. And not that they have to be dressed up, but I always think, look professional.
Absolutely. You look good, you feel good.
You look good, you feel good. You know, one thing I do every day is like, oh, what'd you get all dressed up for? I put on my makeup every morning. I don't come out of my bedroom until my makeup is on. It's not because I'm trying to hide anything. It's just I was taught, you know, there's a book by I think was a Navy admiral or whatever, where he said, make your bed every day. And I, you know, and do these patterns every day that help you have a good day. And so I do make my bed every day, and I do put on my makeup every day, lipstick and all, every single day. Very, very rarely will you ever see me without my makeup. And it's not because I'm trying to not be 50 or anything. It's just I feel better. I feel better. It makes me feel better to know that I invested in myself for 5 minutes in the morning. Trust me, it ain't nothing pretty going on here. It's simple, you know, cheap makeup that's going on my face just to feel good about I'm ready to go out and face the world today. There's a song about that. I wish I had that recorded right now. But anyway, I see these people, and then I see the administrators come in jeans and sloppy things, and I'm like, you can't be getting after them. But the number one thing I see besides uniforms is what time. I hate it when people are late. Oof, that gets me. It gets me. I do not like it when people are late. I've gotten a little lax about it, to be quite honest, because now I'm like, I can be late too. But that's what's happened with the whole world. But if you're in a senior care community or any work environment, somebody's waiting to go home. Somebody's waiting to be relieved. Somebody wants you to get there and get report and go from there and have some things. And it's like, you need to be on time. But then I schedule a Zoom call with the executive, and they're 15 minutes late. And I'm just like, are you serious? How are you setting an example?
The standard now?
How are you setting the example? Or answering your emails? Oh my gosh. You know, we have turned our whole world into answering emails, which I don't agree with. But overall, if that's how we're going to communicate, that's how we're going to communicate. That's totally fine, unless you don't answer your emails. Mm-hmm. And I have to say, I'm going to throw Tim under the bus right now. My significant other he never answers his email. Do not email Tim, because he's not going to read it. He's not going to call you back, and he's not going to know that you even sent it. But how do you run, if that's what today's business model is, and that's what the expectation is? If you're the leader, you're setting that expectation. You're modeling that behavior.
Right.
And I struggle with the fact that I interact with a lot of leaders. And, you know, the interesting thing is it's buildings that are struggling, and I go in, and the leader's struggling with answering text or calls or whatever. And I think that there's a fine balance. You shouldn't have to be on call. There should be expectations, and there's nothing wrong with laying out those expectations of, if it's not urgent, it'll be 24 hours or whatever, and send kickbacks or whatever. But if you're supposed to start a meeting at 2:00, be there at 2:00. Really, in my world,
1:00.
be there 1:00.
Set up.
Have it set up. Have it ready. Go from there. If you arrive at 2:00, you're automatically wasting people that are so stressed and so trying to figure out. They're like, I don't have 10 minutes to do the recognition and celebration contribution, which was the one previously we talked about. I don't have time to do that, but I have 10 minutes to wait for you to get on your Zoom meeting. I mean, come on, people. We need to set up a model that behavior, because I think that that's killing us.
Yeah.
The moment where your actions set the tone for your team, that I set the tone for a team. When I had a team, I'm like, you better be on time, because I have a half a group of people that are there early, and I have a half a group of people. Well, it was probably a third, probably a half of people that were there early, probably a fourth that were there right on time, and a fourth that were late. And so those people that have been there for 30 minutes waiting, then they have to wait an extra 15, 30 minutes for the people. Then, or we have to start all over again, repeat everything. That is where your team starts falling apart. You have to set the expectation. Now, I'm not saying that goes back to number one, lead through empathy. Their car broke down on the way there. This happened, their kid's sick, whatever. There are things that happen. But if you are the one that's late every single time, don't be late every single time.
Yeah.
So modeling your behavior, no matter what that is. If you walk past a call light, that's a big one for me. You walk past a call light, why do you expect your staff not to walk past a call light?
I have a very good relationship with my peers now at work, and I will call them out if there's a call light going off above us. Like, you can see it above the door, and say I'm walking behind them and they're in front of me. I will say, hey, what are you doing? Why'd you just walk past that?
And I greatly appreciate that, because
that's not my patient. I don't care. It's not my patient either, but I'm about to go in there and see what they need.
Man, I don't know who trained you, but you're badass. Excuse my language. Beep. But I love that, because I'll tell you, the hospital my dad goes to, nobody answers call light. It makes me crazy. Yeah. It just goes on and on and on and on. Beepers on and on. They're like, if something really exciting happens, it'll go to St. Louis, and St. Louis will call us. Well, how are you going to know? You don't ever answer your call light. I don't know that you're answering anything. You're setting no expectation. And
that's scary.
It's terrifying.
Like, truly, that is scary to me.
Oh, it's terrifying. Because so that's why my previous episode, I said my mom had emergency. My dad, who's taking care of my mom, we stay. We stay almost every single time. But if my dad, since he visits often, he's a frequent flyer. Since he does, if he's stable and staying for very mild reasons, then okay. But if there's anything critical going on, I can't go home at night. This goes back to, can your families go home and sleep at night? I cannot go home and sleep at night when my dad's in the hospital, at the particular hospital he goes to. I give him grace. I'm nice. I never tell anybody I'm a nurse typically until my dad tells them, and I really hate that he tells them, because I don't want them to be, I don't know. I don't want them to treat us any different, talk any different, do anything different.
Right.
I want to do exactly what you would do if you didn't know. I didn't know, because frankly, I'm not a cardiac nurse, so I don't know any of those things.
And as a nurse, like, when I've had patients' families say, well, I'm a nurse and I know this and I know that and I know this is how it's supposed to be and I know that. I'm like, okay, then why are you here?
Right. Why didn't you take care of this at home?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just feel like that is really important. So do set the tone for your team and through your actions. You cannot expect anything more from them than you are giving of yourself. And, I say that all the time. And for lack of better terms and demonstration, I don't have it. But if you're setting the bar here, that everyone that answers to you, down to the newest person, because the newest person doesn't know what the expectation is. So they have to grow up to you to get there. But if you set it way down here, everyone's going to just be right down here. You have to set it up here and have people come up to you and say, okay, it doesn't mean you're better than them. It doesn't mean anything like that. It just means you have to set the bar, because if you set it low, you're going to get low. You set it high, you're going to get high. I mean, that's just the reality of it. And I think that is a really big problem that people have accepted, that they don't have control over the bar anymore, and they quit trying to set it. And we're doing a dishonor as leaders when we don't set the tone for our team.
Yeah. If you're a good leader and lead by example, people are going to want to follow you.
Right. People do want expectations.
Yeah.
They do want you to hold them accountable. I think that sometimes leaders are like frustrated with holding people accountable. It's hard to hold people accountable, but overall people do want to be held accountable.
Yeah.
If you're, if you just compare it to children, which is probably nobody wants to be compared to children, but it's just like parenting. If you are not setting good standards for your kids, well, guess what? They're not going to have good standards. I mean, why would you expect your kids to have good standards if you didn't set them? So, they're going to want crazy. So the next one is empower staff through delegation. Now, we talk a lot about this one when we were talking about building communities of practice, but do you delegate meaningful tasks that build confidence? Do you give staff ownership of ideas and projects? And I'll tell you, I'm not a good delegator. I try to be a good delegator, but then I have to be very cautious not to micromanage.
Yeah. Or
now she's like, oh yeah.
Or change everything. Hey, do this and send this to me, and then change everything about it.
Change everything about it.
Yeah.
That is what I mean. I knew she would agree with me when she understood where I was going with this, because I can be a little bit of a micromanager, because I have creative vision. Someone asked me the other day, what and have you ever done the Enneagram? And I have, and creative vision is definitely high on the list. I don't remember exactly what number 7 stands for, but overall, I am a visionary, so I envision it. But unfortunately, nobody can see what's in my mind. And I try, and sometimes I go off to the next, and that's why I have to have someone work with me constantly, because I can be like, oh yeah, let's do this, and let's go. And then I can go on to the next vision and the next vision. But I don't remember what the first vision was. I need someone to keep that alive and going, and then I'll come tap back into it. And then this one alive and going, and I'll come tap back into it. And so that's why I can empower staff through delegation. I say I'm not a good delegator, but I'll tell you, I have every bit of, I'm just going to guess, and I know I should figure out the number someday, but let's say 30 administrators that I have helped come to me and as aides, CNAs, CMTs, LPNs, RNs, and have gotten their administrator's license, where I've helped them. And the reason I've done that is because I've delegated tasks to them and given them assignments and taught them and had them do surveys on other buildings and teach other buildings and things that, like, hey, when I had 16 buildings, I had a team that would go inspect the other ones. And, they would go help other ones that were on the list. I told you earlier about the list. They were at the top of the list. So I would help them. Hey, this building's at the bottom of the list and needs some help. So you go there. And that is them delegating tasks that helps them grow as a leader of how do I manage people and how do I duplicate this across multiple locations or multiple departments or whatever the case may be. And I think that really helped grow those people. And, like I said, it's probably 30 administrators directly. I don't know how many took the material or did anything else. And we're actually getting ready to have a study. I'm going to do a study course for Missouri residential assisted living license. And then I'm going to schedule a
NHA.
I'm going to schedule a study course for that, just because there's just nothing like having an undivided attention. We sometimes really want to go to online education to get the tasks done, but that doesn't mean we've connected the person to their purpose and their mission. I do think that there's something to in-person, face-to-face, talking in person, face-to-face learning, teaching, mentoring. You just can't do it through Zoom. Sorry, Zoom.
Well, and it holds you accountable. Like a lot of the study things online now are just do at your own pace. And if I have the option to switch my laundry, unload my dishwasher, reload my dishwasher, or stare at a computer screen and do practice questions, I'm going to do my laundry and unload my dishwasher. And I think being, whether it's in person or like virtually in person, I think that will hold them more accountable.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I just said that and was it today's episode or another episode? I was talking about the let them theory. That I'm still listening to the book for the second time, and I'm listening to it a second time because I was doing other things while I was playing. You know, you hit play and then you do other things, and then I'm like, did I catch that whole message? And I know I didn't. So I want to go back and catch the rest of it because I thought it was a good message, you know. So that goes into the fact that we need to do more in-person training. If we're talking about senior care and nursing, it needs to be in person. There's flat black and white things that you could teach virtually, but the leadership I really think needs to be shown and displayed and practiced. I love if you ever see me at a conference, you know I'm interactive. Like you're gonna get up. You're definitely gonna get up and you're gonna go talk to someone that you don't want to talk to.
Even if you sit in the back of the room, you're still gonna get up.
Yeah, I'm gonna pick on you in the back of the room. I'm gonna pick on you in the front of the room. If I know you, I'll probably pick on you more. I just think that we tend to really stay in our own little bubble when we're trying to learn these days, and it doesn't help you with your leadership skills.
Yeah,
we have too many people that are focused on online learning and hey, look, I can get my MBA at home, but I never learned to practice and lead people.
Don't know how to look somebody in the eyes and communicate with them, but I have my master's in business administration.
Right. And nothing against you MBA people, but you need to make sure that you're practicing, you know, your soft skills out in the field. And because it doesn't really, your title, again, titles and degrees mean very little to me if I can't interact with you as a person.
Yeah.
All right. So, you know, I said the example to share is when empowering someone led to growth or innovation. And I think definitely the administrators and the nurses and the different people that we have done different things with has really helped. I created a team of interim admins and DONs, and the way I created those are the same kind of people that I would teach to go help other buildings. And one of the ways I learned was I would do surveys on other buildings. Even in my current roles, you know, they'd be like, hey, will you go help this building? And so I would get this delegation from my supervisor to go survey other buildings, which means I had to learn the regs and I had to learn the people and I had to learn to interact with people and all those things, which taught me a great deal about the differences of styles and difference of people and that not everything has to be done my way. I hate that. But overall that is how it works. So create open feedback loops. Oh, I find this one so interesting. So do I invite feedback from staff on decisions and changes? Do I act on feedback to improve practices? Now, when I say open feedback loops, what does that mean? That does not necessarily mean I'm going to do a survey. You know, I see in today's day and time where, you know, voted a great place to work. We did a survey, we did great. But I also know I told my team all year long, hey, we want to be 100% satisfaction. And guess what? My team, they want to be it too. And it would take my team being that. But overall, you want to keep that communication going all the time. You know, I'm a big advocate on stay and exit interviews, but only if you are going to take the information and realize you have to grow from it.
Be better. Take it and be better.
If you take it as an insult, if you take it as in someone picking on you, if you take it as, oh my gosh, I need to go into defense, you have that is not what is considered an open feedback loop. That is considered you being a tyrant in your building. I mean, those surveys are there. Perception is reality. When you are a leader, perception is reality. It doesn't matter if you say Tina never comes to work on time. Well, for the fact, Tina is almost always on time. I struggle with this even with my parents. My parents always, they'll be like, don't be, my dad calls me and wants me to be, and they're an hour early to pick him up from his appointment. That's only 15 minutes away. But he'll still call me right at that time, be like, you better be on time. I'm always on time. Quit questioning me about being on time. I'm always on time. But overall, I have to realize his perception is reality, which is he sees me rush in, he sees me getting him together. He has a nervous thing about the fact that we're going to be late. So I have to know that his open loop communication to me that says, Tina, I don't want to be late. I don't want to be late. I don't want to be late. But let's not be late. I can't take that as an insult. I have to be like, okay, this is just why he feels this way.
Right.
And I see that as our leaders in our buildings is they're like, hey, I didn't get a good orientation. That's one of the number one things I hear. So I didn't get a good orientation. Well, why didn't you get a good orientation? And then, they'll give me a list of reasons. I'll go to the administrator, or they'll get the survey automatically and start reacting like, they had 10 days of orientation. They did this and they did that. And I'd be like, okay, well, what kind of orientation did they have? Well, we sat them in a room and had them watch TV. Well, that's not a good orientation. Just sit them in there for 8 hours. We did, Relias. No disrespect to Relias. It has its purpose to get some regulatory things which are less important. Sorry, Department of Health and Senior Services. I'm not saying they're not important. I'm just saying that is not what's making a good caregiver
when it comes to
do a hand washing in service.
Care, it is less important,
right? But overall, we're doing a lot of those things for compliance purposes. We're not doing that thing to interact, to engage that person, or to be involved with that person. And so, sometimes people need you to shoot. Sometimes people need you to read it to them. Sometimes they're audible learners and they can listen to it. Sometimes they're visual learners. They need it. They need the actual TV. Sometimes they are not, technology is not their friend, and they need you to literally walk them. Sometimes I got to put my hands on things.
That's me. Demonstration. I want to see it and then I want to do it.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to learn.
Let me do it. Let me put my hands on whatever it is that you want me to do. I need to understand what the goal is by looking at it. I cannot read a policy and it mean diddly squat to me. And I know that have to happen. I know that there has to be bars. I know that people have to follow things. We teach CMA classes and CNA classes and different things. And I know that there has to be certain protocols that have to go through. Absolutely. But that cannot be taught by someone sitting there. So that's the number one thing I see. And then they start going into like, oh my gosh, I didn't throw this person on this floor. I didn't do this. I didn't do that. And this open loop immediately closes because they're like, one person says something and then they're like, oh, well, I'm going to change the whole program now. We're going to do this. No, you just need to listen to that person, whether you know who it is or not. I don't care if it's one person or 100 people. Listen to that one person. See, is there anything that we can learn from this? And then change. And if not necessary, don't go back to that person. You don't necessarily even have to go back to that person because they might be so insecure that they don't want you to come back to them. You have to know the person to kind of know what that looks like. If it's an outspoken person that you have to go back to and you have to make it public, but it could just be something so simple as like, we need to tweak this program just a little bit so the next person doesn't perceive it this way.
Right.
Or terminations, that's a big one. Like people leave and then all of a sudden we start crapping on them, lack of better terms. We're like, hey, that person wasn't any good. Well, why didn't you tell that person they weren't good when they were there? They were good when they were showing up for you, but now all of a sudden they're not good for you. Like, don't beat people up just because they're not serving your purpose anymore.
Right.
Take that. What could you learn from that moment? And I'll tell you, I have an experience I had some DONs after I stepped in administrator role. I had some DONs that I was very close to. And I had put a lot of emotional energy into. And when they left and things went array, I just remember thinking, well, what did I do? And there's times that even in other jobs I left, I'm like, what did I do? Like, what did I do that would make you feel that way? And it's hard. So we should be supporting people after they leave, because the sad part of it is they might come back. And then how stupid do you look that you've trashed this person when they left, and then you're like, oh, I'm going to hire you back. So we got to be good to people, and I mean that's really what it comes down to, is being good to people. So I'm not a big fan of yearly surveys to meet a measurement. That doesn't mean anything to me. Again, it's like putting lipstick on the pig.
Right.
Thanks, Tim, for that saying. I never heard that saying, but overall, it's like putting lipstick on the pig. It's about learning from that feedback on an ongoing basis and making changes to improve your whole team and leadership. And that is where the open feedback comes from. And if you're a really strong, good leader, it's okay to get that feedback.
Right.
It's not always going to be pretty. And some of it is going to be vindictive or mean. I spoke at a conference a couple years back. And, I always look at the surveys. How did I do? What do I need to do different? And I think it was it's a 1 through 5 scale. And I think it was all 4s and 5s or, whatever. It was a great survey result, except one. One was all 1s. And I was like, wow, someone really didn't get anything out of my lesson. Somebody really hated it. And it so happened that the survey that they sent me had the email addresses, and I realized it was someone that had worked for me previously. And they purposely went through and that person actually had left the class 30 minutes into the class because they got a call that survey was in their building and they had to leave. So they didn't even see my presentation. And they just went and gave me a bad score. And then that person asked me for a job a year later, and I,
oh Lord.
Right. And I'm just like, this is a moment that you have to realize, just take the feedback and figure out how you can grow from it. Yeah. And, my growth from it is I still want to see the surveys. I know that they're not all going to be perfect, even though I like to be perfect, as everyone does.
My thing with a survey, though, is you can write a number down. That's easy, 1 through 5, give your opinion. If you're going to write anything less than a 5, I want to know why.
Why? Nobody writes those comments.
I need a comment section.
Yeah.
If I didn't meet your expectations, tell me why so I can grow from that.
100%. I used to have, we used to do 360s, corporately at times. And then I always had these little paper surveys and I'd give them out to the teams. And I did this when I was a DON administrator. And then a couple of times, since then, but I give them out to the teams. And I'd be like, everyone fill this out and turn it into so-and-so. And they'll collaborate all together for me. And that's what I want to know. Because again, it comes into that perception. Well, I'm going to make up my own mind about why you gave me a 1. And, even on this person, you gave me a 1. Why would you give me a 1? What did I do to you? Like, I honestly, you didn't leave on good terms, but that wasn't my fault. And we could go on and on about different circumstances, but overall, how do you expect me to learn from that?
Yeah.
How do you expect me to grow as a leader by you just giving me a poor score? So if you are going to take the time to give me a poor score, my building, my company, my team, another team member, if you care about your team and you care about your residents getting the best care, and the thing that you're upset about is because they're not providing it, tell them. And whether you're doing it anonymously or, in person or whatever, of course, be respectful about it. Don't be a butthead. But in the same instance, tell them, you'd be the best aide possible. We wouldn't want anyone else if you would just be on time every day.
And see, I think any good leader would appreciate that so much.
I think so too. Because, even if they don't want to hear it, it's going to cross their mind next time that they're 15 minutes late.
Right.
If we just use that example, it's going to cross their mind. You know what? This means more to them and I should do better. And, it might be that they're just that person that's chronically late and we got to figure out what their other strength is in the world. But in the same instance, or how do we adjust it to make it to where they're not late?
Right.
Time is just a clock, you're just going. So what makes it that we can't adjust it? We obviously can't change time, but we can adjust what their assignment are, their duty are to make them successful. And I'm not saying we can make everybody like you arrive at 7:06 today and you can arrive at 7:10. We obviously can't do that, but you understand what I'm saying is we have to give them that feedback and we have to accept it and we have to get it often. We cannot yearly evals, thing of the past. You cannot wait a year. You won't even have that same person in a year if you haven't given them feedback at all or any of these things. So I just think that that we have to make sure that we are getting constant feedback on how we can grow.
Good open communication.
Right. And then we need to be able to accept it and put it down in writing almost how we can grow, because that way you have to keep your emotions out of it. You got to, you got to keep a little, you can't take it personally. If you are someone's coworker and leader, it's not always going to be pretty. And that means you can't take it personally, but you got to take it as a moment of growth,
right?
Not a moment of failure.
Yep. I agree.
So make sure you have those. A time when staff feedback shaped a positive outcome. Well, I'll tell you, the building I was in at one point, they tried to get the union in, and nothing against, I'm not pro-union, anti-union, and I don't have any cards on the table on that. I've never been and worked directly in a building that has union. I've worked through buildings. I've done different engagements, but not one that actually has a union. But they were trying to get in this building that I was at very early in my career, and during that time period, my dad worked at Chrysler, and I might have voted for it. Heck, I don't know. I mean, I honestly, I didn't. I was too young. I was probably 23 years old, and it really didn't mean anything to me at that moment. But what they did was they put an employee council together. And in that employee council, we determined that the director of nursing really wasn't pulling her own weight, and she needed more support. Whether it was she wasn't pulling her own weight because she couldn't, she had other things going on. She wasn't being supported. We could go down a list of many reasons why maybe, but overall, the building did not feel supported by her as a director of nursing. And in that time period, they decided, well, we need a stronger staff development program. And so they dedicated that time period of working through all those things with that employee council that had that open communication. They brought in a remarkable man that could listen and dig into the problems without taking it, even though he was very invested into the company and very invested into, not having the union in there, and very invested into the emotions that would come with the success of that building from a corporate level. He could set it aside and not take anything negatively, and was trying to get down to that root cause again. And through that, we decided, okay, the DON can't do it on herself. It started as a 40-bed building and then went to 50, 60, 80, and it grew and grew and grew, but they hadn't really added a bunch of support staff that really supported the DON. And so they decided to hire a staff development person, which happened to be me. And that grew my whole career from that moment. And, really, I think that they were looking at me as a threat at that moment, even though I wasn't really a threat. They were looking at me as a threat. I could have been someone that was a total threat to them. But in turn, I ended up being a decades-long employee that did a lot of great things for the company. Mm-hmm. But they could have looked at me as a threat and moved me on out the door. And okay, I mean, there's a lot more dynamics with that when you're doing a union thing. But instead, they looked at it as an opportunity to support the building and the employees that were voicing their concerns, hired an additional person to support the person. That building grew to many years of deficiency-free, top moneymaker one year in the company, and all because you had the right leader sitting there, asking the right questions, willing to do the right thing. And I still, I don't stay in constant contact with him, but I watch his many adventures on Facebook, and I just think that that was remarkable. And that
Yep.
was an example of the company that I worked for is, you know, in the face of something that could have been scary for them, it was a win. It was a win all the way around for them to take that feedback and do something positive with it.
Right.
So that's my good example.
Good follow through.
So with that, to reflect on this is which of these strategies do you practice well? Do you do them? Do you not? You're like, Tina, you're talking out both sides of your mouth and your ears or whatever that saying is. I don't know. Because I don't know how you do that. But overall, are you good at these things? And you want to come on and share what you do in order to practice social leadership? Or do you have a lot of room for opportunity to where you need to grow your social leadership skills? If you get on our website, Nurse Leadership Solutions, you can print this exact download in this pretty little format right here, where it has a checklist and the questions that we just kind of went through and asked with you.
It'd be a good self-evaluation tool.
That's exactly what it was designed for. So which one could you strengthen? There's obviously one on here that you could strengthen to strengthen your team and make sure that you're giving your all. Make it easier on yourself. You know, really that's what it comes into is make it easier on yourself, because if you do these things, you're going to have a stronger team to support you, and your job is going to be more about that joy of the journey instead of the pain in the journey.
Yeah.
So, all right. Would you like to add anything?
I don't think so.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. And we look forward to our next visit with you.
See you next time.
See you next time. Have a great day.